If you're a wrestling fan, you know the feeling. The roar of the crowd, the incredible athletes, the high-stakes drama. We cheer for the heroes, we boo the villains, and we get lost in the larger-than-life stories playing out in that squared circle. We know it's a show. But what happens when the show suddenly stops? This is about the darkest moments in wrestling history. The moments when the script got thrown out, and a real-life tragedy unfolded right in front of thousands of people. These are the shocking stories of superstars who lost their lives in the ring, changing the sport forever. Because while wrestling is entertainment, the risks are very real, and in some tragic cases, fatal. These are the moments the performance became terrifyingly real. Our journey starts in Mexico, the heart of Lucha Libre, with a story that sent a shockwave through the entire industry. We're talking about Jesus Javier Hernandez Silva, known to the world as Oro. His name means gold in Spanish, and in the early 90s, that's exactly what he was, a treasure. As a second-generation luchador, wrestling was in his blood. He teamed up with his brothers, Plata, Silver, and Bronze, as a trio called Los Metálicos, and they were being groomed as the future of the legendary CMLL promotion. Oro was just different. In a world of high flyers, he mixed breathtaking aerial moves with a rock-solid technical style. At 6 feet tall, he was bigger than many luchadors, which made his high-risk moves look even more dangerous. He had this intense pride in his work and was always pushing the limits to have the best match of the night. He wanted every dive to be more spectacular, every bump to look more devastating. And it was that very dedication that led to tragedy. On October 26, 1993, at the Arena Coliseo in Mexico City, Oro was in a 6-man tag match. He'd told everyone beforehand that he wanted to take a specific kind of bump, a kabashi bump, named after a move in Japan where a wrestler lands right on their head for a dramatic effect. He wanted that visual to elevate their match. During the fight, his opponent Kahaz hit him with a clothesline. Oro took the bump just as he planned, spinning and landing squarely on his head, and then he just collapsed. His opponent, Dr. Wagner Jr., tried to pick him up, but Oro was limp. Confusion turned to panic. As medics put him on a stretcher, his own brother, who was at ringside, screamed at him, "Don't fall asleep!" It was a desperate plea, rooted in an old wrestler's belief that you couldn't pass on if you stayed conscious. But it was too late. Oro died right there, before he could even be moved to an ambulance. He was just 2 months away from his 22nd birthday. His devastated family requested no autopsy, but it's widely believed the impact caused a fatal brain aneurysm. The golden boy of Lucha Libre was gone, leaving a legacy defined by his incredible talent and the terrifying speed of his fall. Decades before Oro's tragic fall, another death in the ring marked a grim day in wrestling history, this time involving a true trailblazer. His name was Lindsay, and he was one of the first African-American wrestlers to become a major star in the U.S., competing mostly in the 50s and 60s, a time of deep racial segregation. Lindsay shattered barriers. He was hugely popular, especially in the Pacific Northwest, and was considered one of the best submission wrestlers of his time. He was so respected that he even faced the legendary NWA World Heavyweight Champion Lou Thesz for the title, which was unheard of for a black wrestler back then. Thesz himself praised Lindsay's skills, and it was well known that Lindsay had been trained by, and even beaten, the formidable Stu Hart in his infamous dungeon. Lindsay wasn't just a great wrestler, he was a symbol of progress in a sport that was just starting to integrate. He held championships and took part in some of the country's first interracial matches, paving the way for generations of black athletes who came after him. His power and athletic ability were undeniable, making him a credible threat to any champion and a beloved star among fans of all races. On the night of February 21, 1972, in Charlotte, North Carolina, Lindsay was in a match against a local wrestler. About 10 minutes in, Lindsay hit his finisher, a diving belly flop, and went for the pin. The referee counted 1, 2, 3. The bell rang. Lindsay had won the match, but he didn't get up. The ref tapped him, telling him the match was over, but Lindsay was completely unresponsive. Panic set in. In a chillingly ironic twist, Luther Lindsay had suffered a massive, fatal heart attack at the exact moment of his victory. He died right there in the ring, on top of the man he had just pinned. The pioneering champion was gone at 47, his life ending in the very place he'd made his name. Japanese women's wrestling, or Joshi Puroresu, is famous for its incredibly physical, hard-hitting style. But that intensity comes at a steep price, a reality made horrifyingly clear by the death of Plum Mariko. Known outside the ring as Mariko Umeda, she was a standout in the JWP Joshi Puroresu promotion during the 90s. While others focused on acrobatics, Mariko was a submission specialist, known for her sambo background and her exciting, explosive style. She even invented the stretch plum, a submission hold still used today. But for all her skill, Mariko's career was riddled with injuries. She suffered multiple concussions and a broken collarbone, racking up damage over years of wrestling that notoriously stiff Japanese style. She had reportedly been complaining about nagging health issues and feeling unusually tired, but like so many wrestlers, she pushed through the pain, refusing to miss a show. That relentless drive masked a growing, invisible danger. On August 15, 1997, in Hiroshima, Mariko was in a tag team match. Her opponent, Mayumi Ozaki, hit her with a Libre bomb for the pin. It was a standard move, one she'd taken countless times. But this time, Mariko was knocked unconscious. She didn't kick out. At first, some fans and wrestlers thought she was just selling the move, a sign of how blurred the lines between performance and reality are. But then she started snoring, a terrifying indicator of a brain bleed. And everyone knew something was terribly wrong. Mariko was rushed to the hospital for emergency brain surgery, but it was too late. She passed away the next day at just 29 years old. She became the first widely documented wrestler in Japan to die from injuries sustained in the ring. Doctors concluded that the final blow had ruptured a pre-existing brain abscess, likely caused by all the head trauma she'd suffered over her career. Her death was a grim wake-up call that the very style that made Joshi so compelling also carried the ultimate risk. It's tough to hear these stories, but they're a crucial part of wrestling history. They remind us of the real human beings behind the characters we love to watch. If you want to show respect for these performers who gave everything to the business, please take a moment to hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the world of professional wrestling. Sometimes tragedy doesn't strike on the grandest stage, but at a small independent show where the passion for wrestling is just as real. That was the case for Gary Albright, a powerhouse known as the Master of Suplexes. Albright was a gifted amateur wrestler who brought that legitimacy to the pros. After a run in Stampede Wrestling, he found his biggest success in Japan, where his shoot style and arsenal of suplexes made him a huge star in promotions like All Japan Pro Wrestling. He was also a member of the legendary Anoa'i wrestling family by marriage, having married the daughter of Afa the Wild Samoan. Albright's size and raw strength were his calling cards. He was a legitimate monster who could throw his opponents around the ring with frightening ease, making every match a spectacle of pure power. His style was all business, a throwback to when wrestling felt more like a real fight. On January 7, 2000, Albright was wrestling for World Extreme Wrestling, a promotion run by his father-in-law in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. The crowd was small, maybe a little over 100 people, but they were about to witness a tragedy. During his match against a wrestler named Lucifer Grimm, Albright was hit with a cutter. After taking the move, he collapsed. His opponent, sensing something was seriously wrong, quickly rolled Albright on top of himself to end the match. Wrestlers and crew rushed the ring, trying CPR, but it was no use. Gary Albright was pronounced dead shortly after being taken from the ring. An autopsy later revealed the cause of death was a heart attack. The medical examiner found that Albright had an enlarged heart, suffered from diabetes, and had severe blockages in his coronary arteries. He was only 36 years old. His death was a stark reminder that even the strongest-looking athletes can have silent health issues, and the physical toll of wrestling is immense, no matter how big the crowd is. In wrestling, you're always asking yourself, is this real or is it part of the show? That blurred line is part of the magic. But on May 11, 2019, it led to a horrifying and confusing scene during a Lucha Libre show in London. At the center of it was Cesar Barón, known to the world as Silver King. A veteran of the Mexican wrestling scene and a former WCW star, Barón was a respected luchador from a famous wrestling family. Many fans also knew him as the villain Ramses from the Jack Black movie, Nacho Libre. That night in London, he was reprising his role as Ramses. He was in a match against another former WCW star, Juventud Guerrera. During the match, Juventud kicked Silver King, who went down hard. He struggled to get up, then collapsed again. For a few awful moments, everyone, the crowd, the ref, even Juventud, seemed to think it was part of the act. Juventud tried to continue the match, pinning a motionless Silver King and looking at the referee in confusion when he didn't get a response. The celebration was cut short by the slow, dawning horror of the situation. Medics rushed to the ring as the audience was evacuated. Despite their efforts, they couldn't revive him. Silver King, at age 51, was pronounced dead at the scene. It was later confirmed he'd suffered a massive cardiac arrest. The incident drew criticism over the initial confusion and the delay in medical help, highlighting the danger when a real emergency is mistaken for entertainment. Silver King's public death became a chilling, modern example of wrestling's most dangerous illusion. In Mexico, few names in wrestling carried more weight than Aguayo. Pero Aguayo was a legend, and his son, Pero Aguayo Jr., wasn't just a star, he was the star. He was the top villain, or rudo, in the country, and the leader of the massively popular group Los Perros del Mal. Aguayo Jr. was famous for his brawling style, his incredible swagger, and his command of the crowd. He was wrestling royalty, and he was supposed to carry his family's legacy for years to come. On March 20, 2015, that legacy came to a shocking end in Tijuana. Aguayo Jr. was in a tag team match, teaming with Manic against Rey Mysterio Jr. and Extreme Tiger. The match was going normally until one sequence sent everything into a tragic spiral. After taking a blow that sent him out of the ring, Aguayo Jr. got back in, and Mysterio hit him with a drop kick to set him up on the middle rope for his signature 6-1-teen. Aguayo landed awkwardly on the rope and went limp. For a few moments, the match continued around him. His partner and opponents were still going, and Mysterio even hit the 6-1-teen on the other opponent, while Aguayo lay motionless. It took nearly 2 minutes for anyone to realize this wasn't part of the show. Conan, who was at ringside, frantically tried to revive him. Paramedics were called, but the response time was criticized. Aguayo was taken to a nearby hospital and pronounced dead in the early hours of March 21st. The cause of death was a cardiac arrest caused by a cervical stroke from 3 fractured vertebrae. The news was devastating, not just for the loss of a 35-year-old superstar in his prime, but for the haunting footage of his final moments, a freak accident that played out live for everyone to see. Of all the tragedies that have happened inside a wrestling ring, none is more infamous or heartbreaking than the death of Owen Hart. On May 23, 1999, at the WWE's Over the Edge pay-per-view in Kansas City, Owen was supposed to make a spectacular entrance from the rafters of the arena. He was in his comedic superhero gimmick, the Blue Blazer, and the plan was for him to be lowered into the ring, where he'd get comically tangled in the harness before falling harmlessly on his face. It was a stunt meant to get a laugh, but high above the ring, something went catastrophically wrong. While waiting for his cue, the quick-release mechanism on his harness triggered too early. Owen Hart fell 78 feet, hitting the top rope chest first before being thrown into the ring. For the millions watching at home on pay-per-view, the incident was hidden by a pre-taped interview. But for the 16,000 fans in the arena, the show turned into a real-life horror. Commentator Jim Ross had to keep telling the TV audience that this was not a wrestling storyline, that this was real. Medics worked on Owen in the ring as a stunned silence fell over the crowd. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, but his injuries were too severe. The impact had severed his aorta, and he bled to death internally in minutes. He was only 34 years old. In a decision that is still debated today, the show went on. An hour later, Jim Ross delivered the devastating news to the world. I have the unfortunate responsibility to let everyone know that Owen Hart has died. The crowd in the arena was never officially told. Owen's death wasn't because of a missed move or a health problem. It was a mechanical failure, a stunt gone horribly wrong, that stole one of the most beloved and gifted performers of his generation in the most public and tragic way imaginable. The stories of these wrestlers are a heavy reminder of the real dangers that exist behind the curtain of sports entertainment. From freak accidents and equipment failures to the slow breakdown of the body from a brutal style, these performers put their lives on the line every time they stepped through those ropes. They did it for the love of the business and for the roar of the crowd. Their tragic deaths ensure we never forget that underneath the characters and storylines are real people making incredible sacrifices. We want to honor their memory and the passion they brought to the ring. What are your memories of these legendary performers? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and please remember to subscribe for more content that explores the rich and complex history of professional wrestling.